I once heard of this magical place in Mexico called Oaxaca. I was told that Oaxaca was the place to visit if I wanted to connect further with my Mexican roots. And if I'm being quite honest, I knew very little about this state before arriving here. Something I did know for sure was that I was going to come across some beautiful people, delicious food, and some really good mezcal. Little did I know that Oaxaca had so much more to offer. The city of Oaxaca is actually one of the most popular tourist destinations in Mexico. During this trip, I learned that heritage tourism makes up an important part of the city's economy. Throughout the year, there are many festivals and gatherings to celebrate the indigenous and the community. My time in Oaxaca was way too short this time, so I didn't get to experience much, but I got to experience enough to definitely want to come back. We were in Oaxaca City for a total of 2 days and 2 nights. During the 2 days that we were there, we got nothing but rain. As you can see here, my best friend and I are running for our lives. This was on our last day there, trying to get back to our hostel on time to catch the bus to our next destination. And well, as much as I wish that I could share more content from Oaxaca City, that is all that I have. And that takes us to our next destination. Some of us love to call this place paradise. Others like to call it Puerto Escondido. We traveled overnight to get from Oaxaca City to Puerto Escondido and got there just on time for sunrise. As always, we immediately made some friends and decided to go on a morning swim first thing that day. Once again, there is very little content that I was able to capture during my time here on the coast of Oaxaca. However, I will be sharing some of these beautiful, breathtaking views that I was able to capture. The coast of Oaxaca is not only known for its beautiful long golden beaches and breathtaking views, but also many surfers from around the world travel here to surf on these Pacific waves. And even though I only spent less than a week here, I can genuinely say that Puerto Escondido holds such a special place in my heart, and I absolutely cannot wait to be back. By this point, we had been traveling nonstop for over 1 month, so Puerto Escondido quickly became that ideal place for us to just slow down a bit and take a break. And even though we had to cut our time short here in Puerto, we still made the best out of the 6 days that we got to spend here, I would say. Most of our days, if not all of our days, consisted of beach days, of course. On day one, we met this neighborhood stray dog that followed us all the way to the beach, and he quickly became my running buddy every morning. During my time here in Puerto, I also got to spend a lot of time alone out in nature, enjoying beautiful long hikes out on the beach, really just trying to connect with everything I have lived so far and experienced during my travels. Half of our time was spent in Puerto Escondido, and the other half we went down south to a place called Cicatela, which is another surfer town. There we stayed in these cabins right in front of the ocean, right in front of the beach. They were very wild, gave me jungle vibes, called Cabañas Buena Onda. I didn't get sick much during my entire time traveling, but I remember here laying down, cuddling with this kitty. And during this time, I recall I was actually not feeling my best, spent this day just laying in bed, trying to recover. And of course, you can't miss those mosquito bites if you're out in the jungle, just something to be expected. Nonetheless, after allowing myself a full day to just lay, rest, and recover, I was able to feel so much better the next day. So just a tiny tip for anybody looking to embark on their first backpacking trip or take a trip for a longer period of time, remember to listen to your body and really allow yourself a time or a day to fully just rest and do nothing. Another thing to know is knowing the climate and the weather of where you're traveling to. When I was planning for this trip specifically, I really didn't care what the weather was going to be like because it was happening no matter what. But it did help me to have an idea so that way we could plan a little bit ahead. Obviously, there are some things you cannot plan for, like this scene right here that you're seeing. Not sure what happened here, but there was just a lot of rain. It was rain season, and I guess this is just what happens down in the coast of Oaxaca.
¿Cómo le hago para llegar allá?
And once I felt much better, I was able to really soak in and enjoy the rest of this trip. There's just something so magical that happens when you decide to slow down a little bit during your travels. When we travel, we usually tend to want to check out all of the top tourist destinations. Perhaps some that have been recommended to us by others, or some of these places that we've been wanting to visit for a very long time. In my case, I personally find these destinations to be the least of the places where I care to visit when I travel. And yes, some of these places are top tourist destinations for a reason. However, I personally find that I enjoy taking recommendations from the locals and visiting places that they personally recommend to me much, much better. I really enjoy seeing how the locals live their day-to-day. I enjoy learning about tourism and how it can benefit certain communities when you travel more consciously. I want to make sure that when I visit someone else's country and home, that I am somewhat informed of their culture and their lifestyle so that I can be as respectful and appreciate that I am there as a guest only. Traveling has created a certain level of awareness in me. I cannot fully explain this feeling, but I am sure that if you have traveled somewhere in the past, you know that you don't return from your travels being the same person as when you first left. I always come back from my travels feeling humbled by the experience and also inspired by the world. I come back home feeling recharged with a heart full of gratitude and lots of new stories to share with my loved ones. Traveling also makes me appreciate more of what I have back home. I learn to appreciate more of the little things like my comfortable bed, clean water available at all times, good climate, and most importantly, my family and my community. I encourage you all to travel a bit more. You don't have to leave your country or even your home state. You can explore the city you live in or find the nearest hike in your hometown and get lost in nature for a bit. Perhaps go on a road trip to the nearest beach town or mountain town and spend a weekend away from home. I highly encourage you to disconnect from society and your daily routine once in a while, just to see how this makes you feel. And if you notice that there is a good feeling being created from this situation, I then encourage you to explore this feeling and what brought you there even further. By the end of this video, I hope that you feel inspired in some way. However, always follow your heart and do what makes you truly happy. And with that being said, we're off to the next adventure.